Some people go about life with a negative outlook. I mean, they are, but they're not. There's a fine line between good and evil. I disagree. It's a big theme, and I can't stop talking about it. Hello Internet, it is I, the Roshi, and I'm back with another reaction. This time, the Genshin Impact version trailers. I'm finally doing them, so I'm going to watch them, I'm going to talk about them, and then we'll go from there. Let's start.
Boats are made for transferring commodities back and forth, and those that come across Liyue tend to stay a while. So it is where many things come to settle.
This is the largest one we've seen so far.
The Fatui! They're attacking the Grecian ballista!
Let's see. Will the nation that has lost its deity be swallowed up by an ancient malice once more?
Farewell, old friend.
I am the least adept with the bow, and that is precisely why I must master it. Shouldn't let your guard down.
Nothing can be accomplished without rules or standards.
Think you can bully me?
Pyrotechnics! Oh yeah, rock on!
D-Luke! Oh, I can't stand him. They are special!
So this was the first version trailer, and it's relatively short. However, I believe as we go on, they get longer and more in-depth and more fleshed out. That seems to be the case with the character demos and teasers and all that jazz. So nothing wrong with that, that's to be expected. We open up here with a floating temple in Liyue. Liyue is a hub. It's a checkpoint of sorts where there's a lot of commerce, and it turns out to be like a resting spot for a lot of people. There's reference to the Fatui, who I understand are usually the main antagonist. I know some may argue that perhaps they're not all evil. However, they do seem to get involved with a lot of shady stuff that you have to deal with. We then have this crazy dragon or hydra, and I'm wondering if this is some form of a deity that's kind of lost its way or has been corrupted, possibly. Perhaps this is an event in the game, or like a boss battle in the campaign. Maybe you have to fight this thing. We move into the characters, such as Tartaglia. I am the least adept with a bow, and that is precisely why I must master it. I kind of like that, considering you have these special attacks or different stances where he has these moves that he uses a various amount of weapons and techniques. However, he himself here is like, I have to master all weapons. And he's choosing one that he's least adept with. Respect. You could never defeat me, not even in your wildest dreams. But hey, try to relish the fight anyway. Ooh, okay. Yeah, and he's confident, which we've kind of talked about before. He's taking you on with a weapon that he's not necessarily an expert in. It's not like he's going to be bad with it, so it's maybe to his own standards. He's not the best with a bow, right? But he still has that confidence where he's like, I'm gonna beat you anyway. And then we have Zhongli here talking about standards and rules and the order, justice, essentially. And once again, just a complete badass, having pillars shoot up from the ground, having meteors fall from the sky. He has a quote as well, speaking in regards to a private fund, and that he likes the idea, and you know, it's one of those things where why and I think of that. I guess this has to do with his job working for Hu Tao. Maybe it's related to that. But we do know that this guy does like spending a lot. Perhaps this is related to a conversation about him always spending money on things, and maybe there's a little more logic being introduced. Like, how about we have this other fund that you can dip into instead of the entire company's budget? Right, and then they have these two characters. They introduced the 4 stars. From my understanding, I hear maybe that not too many people enjoy Xinyan. But yeah, I think I saw in the comments that she's kind of weak. I don't know if that's changed. But yeah, that's a bit of a shame. I like the aesthetic. I like that there is a rocker person and they have that as their theme, and I think fire goes well with that. I think I'd have to see more about Diona. I have seen some things in the comment section. What's interesting here is that she talks about Diluc. So there's some kind of connection between her and Diluc. This is, I think, one of our first times actually hearing about Diluc in any of these teasers or trailers. Maybe his name has been brought up before, I'm not sure. But he hasn't really appeared in anything, and I know he's a character that a lot of people have enjoyed. So with all the stuff that I've seen, this is the first time I'm hearing any mention of him at all. And I guess Diluc and this character banter or something. I don't really know much of the Traveler's deal other than that you start your journey looking for your sibling, and then you pretty much get wrapped up into all this. I don't know if there's anything else that's important about the Traveler. Does anyone actually use the Traveler in your party of characters that you collect? Because I feel like most people don't. I personally feel like that's a little strange, playing through a campaign and then in all these cutscenes you have it from the Traveler's perspective, yet he or she is not the one actually going on the adventure. I mean, they are, but they're not. You know what I mean? Is that weird to think that way? It's a weird, like, oh, self-insert, and then you're not in it because all these other people are just cooler than you. But let me know what you think. Is that something that bothers you at all? Does that not bother you? Maybe it's something that you just grew used to over time. And then you have a portrait of what looks like Mona. So maybe this is a personal character quest. Oh, and then we have the number 2. So maybe this is introducing a second part or a second story of some kind for Mona. I'm trying to go back and look at some of the imagery here as well. For example, in this shot we have Ganyu, my beloved, and a couple other characters, some in a animal form. Like, I believe this is Shenhe's master, maybe, the crane, but they're a adepti or adepti. They get themselves involved. These are like water tornadoes, and maybe these turn into the Hydra-like creature.
Let's see. Will the nation that has lost its deity be swallowed up by an ancient malice once more?
Yeah, they definitely turn into the creature. But yeah, it seems like chaos is breaking out, and you have Adepti responding to it. You gotta do something about it. It introduces these other characters. The trailer also started on this floating shrine and also pretty much ends on the floating shrine with the big light burst exploding from it, from the Traveler. Perhaps you had to complete some kind of ritual to make things okay again. On to the next one.
Do you know the story of Durin and this mountain? Snow gathers atop this mountain and never melts, which is a most curious phenomenon. In fact, I believe that the very sword in your hand has Durin's remains in it. As such, who could I find to help me if not you?
Into position! Prepare for battle!
Getting a little cold?
Genius? But I don't think I'm any genius.
Moment of birth!
My job is to honor my contract with Rex Lapis. All hail! It's so nice to de-stress.
I made a new discovery while sketching nearby. There's an area up ahead that's quite remarkable. The truth of this world. What could it be? Was the two of us meeting really a good thing?
I really enjoyed that. Already, it's just the second version trailer I'm seeing ever, and it's already stepped up a notch. I really like this one, and I don't know, maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm biased because we have Ganyu in here. Ganyu. I don't know if you understand how much I like Ganyu. I like Ganyu. And we have Albedo as well, who is, I think, a very interesting character. Many people consider or think Albedo as a genius, and I thought it was really interesting to see and hear that he may not think that. Here, I feel like we saw a side of him that's a little down on himself, or at the very least, a realist. He says, "Where should I begin? The essence of life?" And despite his quote being something like that, here he is going on about, questioning genius. I don't think I'm a genius. Yet at the same time, he's someone who contemplates life and can even create it. Also, this line here, was the two of us meeting really a good thing? Ooh, you have all these characters who are doing their own thing or getting up in each other's business. Maybe Albedo's just kind of like, maybe we shouldn't do that. Or he could just be getting philosophical right now. He does talk about life a lot. He could just be touching upon fates of people and paths crossing, and is it always a good thing? Is this a good thing? Where will it lead? I'm jumping back to Ganyu here real quick because I was just gushing before, but I actually do want to talk about her a little bit. I love seeing her in action in this version trailer, and her quote here is very interesting. "I've dealt with similar issues hundreds of times. Give me a moment to consider the best approach in this scenario." I like this because I feel like I can relate to it in a way, and I'm sure many others can as well. I consider myself the kind of person that when I'm in a scenario, I like to weigh my options and kind of think things through before making a decision. I feel like that's just how I am naturally. For example, as you can tell when I do these reactions, I watch everything first and then I analyze it, and I actually do take time to think of what I want to say. I know I stumble over my words all the time, but at the same time, I try to at least get the general idea of what I want to talk about and how to go about it before I just start saying words for the sake of saying words. So this is interesting here, seeing that Ganyu actually has that similar mentality where she pulls upon her experience and she just takes a moment to think before choosing what she believes is the best possible solution. Sure, just give me another reason to gush over her. Fine. I also love how this is showing off like a winter landscape. I know I've talked about how I'm not a huge fan of deserts, but I do really like tundra.
It's so nice to de-stress.
I made a new discovery while sketching nearby.
I like this moment in the trailer as well. It's kind of peaceful. You have Ganyu saying it's nice to de-stress, and then we see Albedo here doing a sketch, and he's just talking about how he made another discovery while he was just doing this hobby of his. Even though this is just all a game, it's kind of giving you a sense of feeling of appreciating the little things. Even these characters who are always with you on adventures and dealing with their jobs and maybe even some past stuff or trauma, whatever it may be. There are points in time, at least from this trailer, that make you remember that these are supposed to be people, not just some action character who's rushing off to the next enemy, to the next boss, to do some crazy colorful combo. It's giving you that sense that, no, these people have lives, just like anyone would in the real world. You have people that go out to watch the sunset every day. You have people who like to go to a local cafe just to read the paper and drink a coffee. You have people who just want to sit on their porch or something, draw a picture, play some music, stargaze. Like, sure, we get to this point of the trailer and it's to show off this new discovery that he's talking about, or how beautiful the game can look in some places. But it is still just that little reminder that you can slow down. I've said it before in other stuff, but I like things that remind you to appreciate the little things. Personally, I feel like that's something that I need to work on. Well, other than the interesting and cool character stuff that we looked at, it seems like this trailer is showing another area with a quest attached to it. They're talking about story of Durin, who I imagined is some kind of legendary figure or old god of some kind. The sword is connected to it in some way. You go to solve some mysteries, maybe to help some NPC out, and you end up getting betrayed, and stuff gets unleashed, and things are crazy. That's my guess anyway. It's called Festering Desire, so it's probably a cursed weapon where it makes you desire it, and probably that's where this betrayal comes in. So maybe this NPC who possibly hires you to go get this thing, maybe not strong of will, and once close to it, they are tempted. Which would explain this scene here, where you have this character in the green reaching for this cursed blade, the traveler diving in front of it, and he kind of gets knocked around, and then crazy things happen. All hail Ganyu. He told me to, and I don't mind. Next.
Wow, such a beautiful lantern. How is it made? Wow, so many stalls.
Come, try your hand at Theater Mechanicus.
There seems to be something mysterious about this photographic apparatus.
If you're able to, could you try to convince Xiao to go with you?
Their voices. I can always hear them.
If you cannot bring yourself to kill, speak my name. Evil conquering! Do not judge a Jadeite by your mortal ideals. Cry!
Okay. Oh, there's more?
Paimon will help you find her, and we'll spend the next lantern rite together.
Look at here, we have Zhao. It's been a while. But yeah, I think this is my first time seeing Zhao again since the character demos. He doesn't have a character teaser, which is unfortunate. He has a short trailer, which I will watch at some point alongside Ayaka's short trailer. That'll be a future video. Well, let's talk about this. You know, before I described Zhao as edgy, and I don't think that was the correct word I was thinking of, I really wanted to say angsty. He is that teenaged angst character. Not saying it's for no reason. It's not like he just has an attitude problem. He actually has his reasons. This is a character who is tormented. But what I liked that they showed here is a more peaceful state. Because in his character demo, he was 100% kill, kill, destroy, I'm tortured, bah! You know, that can be a little much. But here I like seeing that we do have potentially a sweeter side to him, that he does have peaceful moments, or at least tries to. He's here and he's enjoying watching the lanterns and the fireworks. And even though it's just for a moment, there is peace. So although you have this character with a lot of angst for his reasons, he is still able to at least make an attempt to control whatever that is, to once again appreciate little things. It's a big theme, and I can't stop talking about it. I am looking forward to seeing a short trailer in the future someday, because I do want to see more of the other side of his personality. But yeah, despite all that, he looks like he's a lot of fun to play as. I don't think I expressed that in the character demo when I saw it, but I thought it. I did. Their voices, I can always hear them. Yeah, me too, man. So yeah, there's this fireworks / lantern festival. It reminded me of the few times I've gone to firework festivals in Japan. There was also one festival I remember in particular. It wasn't a fireworks festival, and it wasn't lanterns, but it was a firefly festival, and it was alongside a river, and there were a lot of vendors and a lot of people just hanging out. It was summertime, it was humid and hot, but one thing I'll remember forever is just the little fireflies just at nighttime, just flying around the water. And it was just a very pretty moment. I kind of felt that again watching these characters just admire all these floating lanterns in the sky and enjoying fireworks. There's a lot of pretty visuals here. You have the red of the shrines and the bridges and the buildings contrasting up against the deeper blue sky. You have all these orange and yellow lights floating out. It just very visually impressive and doing a lot with colors. You'll notice even on the red structures themselves, they don't even use black to cast shadow, yet they use a shade of blue and purple. And then where light is touching, they use yellow and orange. Using yellows and blues for lights and darks stands out a lot more than just white and black. It's actually a technique I learned in my visual arts color theory class. Many artists do that, but in particular, this reminds me of Hayao Miyazaki's work in Spirited Away. He would do a lot of things like this just to make the environments pop more. They also talk about a mystery, so maybe they introduce a side quest, or perhaps this is part of a mini game where you're taking photographs And we have this moment at the end here where you have the traveler chilling out, watching the festival, and then having feelings of missing their sibling, reaching out to them, and they're not in reach. And that's sad. I'm just wondering how big of a role that plays in everything else that's involved with Genshin. Is your sibling even in your world? Are they involved in some way with the overall story? Maybe one day we will find out that they're involved. Maybe they're a potential threat for some reason. But at this point in time, it seems like it's still just kind of this thing that's in the back of your mind, and this is reminding you that, like, yeah, there's still this is, I mean, this is why you're here, you're searching for them. Okay, let's move on to the next one.
So, Traveler, the Mondstadt Windblume Festival. Do you like it?
Come on, put your skills to the test.
Come enjoy the Windblume Festival.
Go adventure with you? Just like we do if I was on your adventure team? Could I ask you for some guidance on my chivalric training?
I'm still feeling quite uncomfortable. I feel much better now.
Well, it's a little embarrassing to say, but... look out!
Unofficial business?
How's the research going?
Don't overdo it. Let me take care of the dirty work. I hear you've got a job for me. You can't run! Lights out.
Huh. My first sighting of Diluc in an actual trailer. Yay. This was pretty cool. It went from feeling very lighthearted, talking about a festival in Mondstadt. It's introduced by Venti, which makes sense, and there are a bunch of mini games to partake in. But this trailer also showed a little bit of Rosaria, which I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was coming to an end, and then all of a sudden she pops up and she's saying, "Let me take care of the dirty work," and then continues to just be a boss. I really like her design. Thorny Benevolence. I'm sure many can relate to that, minus the T. And she has quite a long yet tiny quote that is essentially her questioning the church. You know, stating that it's normal to have time off for festivals. What's up with the church not giving us time off? But yeah, then we have this real quick here. It only shows it for a moment, where this is the sibling. There's that moment of realization, and then they essentially dart through a portal. Protagonist traveler follows through and appears on the other side of it. Sibling nowhere to be found. Now, one thing that wasn't too clear, or I wasn't sure if I caught it, that thing that you're fighting here, this guy, was this guy beaten and then the sister was in their place, and then you're like, what the heck? And then that whole thing happens and you lose them again. I'm wondering if my theory about the sibling being used as a reoccurring villain and or antagonist further down in the game is an actual thing. Maybe there are hints at it, and this is one of those hints, and then maybe at this point in time it's been revealed that, yeah, the sibling is the big bad. Whether or not they're in control of it, I'm not sure. Maybe they're brainwashed. Who knows? But other than the mystery thing at the end and every frame that was Rosaria, I did appreciate that they showed some of the other characters that we don't normally get to see. For example, Barbara here. It was nice.
If it is fated, we will meet again.
Well, the tone just had a big shift.
It must have been about 4 or 5 days ago. There were a few men who came through here carrying baskets and picks. I guess that could have been them. And there was a child staggering in front of them.
This is I, Ashtaha, forged of elemental crystal. The enraged earth will not absolve you! Ah! You stand upon your tomb.
Quake! There is a fine line between good and evil.
This is order. It was humanity that attacked the ley lines that sustained me. So here lies the wisdom of the gods. To dust!
Hey, wait a minute. Does this count as martial arts? Ready for trial. Incinerate! Breath of the flame! Inadmissible evidence! Well, I guess I've mastered both the pen and the sword.
People tell me that if I just spoke more softly, others may find it easier to forgive me. But the only reason they think that way is because they've never been branded a pariah before. I condemn you! Freeze to the core! Eye for an eye! Vengeance will be mine!
This Serenity pot is all yours now. Oh, you needn't worry about that. I've already arranged for a certain little helper to await you within this teapot. She will explain everything you need to know about it.
So in this one, they introduce a bunch of artifacts, a dungeon, and it looks like there's even a little house customization mechanic now as well, which I was completely unaware of. Then again, that goes without saying. I'm not aware of a lot of things that have happened in this game. This version trailer was okay. I will admit that I find this part kind of interesting. It's mysterious. I don't exactly know what is going on here, other than this person is clearly evil and you're out to stop them. And they either are this beast thing in disguise or they help summon this beast thing. Wasn't really a fan of the voice chosen. That's just a guy yelling. There's no real effect on it to make it sound like it's coming out of this creature. Not saying that the voice is bad, but I feel like there could have been some work done to make it sound more threatening. Maybe it's different in another language. Maybe they just kind of dropped the ball a little bit with the English work that was done. No disrespect to the voice actor themselves or necessarily the director. Some companies just want things done a certain way, and maybe this was their vision. If the guy is unable to make himself sound like a monster, then I don't think there's any problem with using some effects just to push it a little bit more. For me, watching this, it kind of fell flat a little bit and sort of took me out of it. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it would make more sense to me if I played through it. Yeah, it just takes me a little out of it that it's just kind of like an angry dude standing on the other side of a room rather than some crazy beast that's causing earthquakes under its feet. This I find interesting here. I love Zhongli. I would love to sit down and have a drink with this guy and talk about what he says here. There's a fine line between good and evil. I disagree. There are very morally gray decisions that people can make, and I wouldn't consider something that is gray to be the line. It's a blur between the two. Let's take Tartaglia for example. People in the comments have told me that he works for the Fatui. However, he also helps out the Traveler a lot, and we see him and Zhongli together sometimes as well. He might be helping you, but he's helping you because it most likely benefits whatever he is trying to do personally. So what I mean by all this is that I get what he's trying to say, but I think it's more than a line. Usually people who are evil don't say that they are evil. They're usually not aware that they're evil. People just have their own ideas. They want to do their own plans. There's greed, there's selfishness, there's for the greater good. And despite just trying to help, some people will not see it that way and will consider the actions taken to be evil. There's also the other side where you can argue that having some strict system of justice can be evil as well. This is more than a tightrope. There are so many things in play. So anyway, that's the kind of debate I would love to have with him. And, you know, I love that he is so gung-ho with this idea. It makes him very interesting. Speaking of evil, we have a lawyer, Yanfei. I have nothing against her. It's a joke. As some of you may know, I've reacted to the Overture teaser, and that was about Fontaine. It's very trial heavy, right? And the courtroom and all that jazz. Has Yanfei ever made any references to Fontaine? I was just wondering if they ever like alluded to it like this early in Genshin. If they did, that's pretty impressive. Not saying that she has to be from there just because she talks about law and trials. I just thought that would have been pretty clever if she was. We have Eula here, which is great. Love Eula. People tell me that if I just spoke more softly, others may find it easier to forgive me. But the only reason they think that way is because they've never been branded a pariah before. So Eula talks a lot about how she should act, or how people say she should act. However, she always brings up her history because it's seriously affected her. She's been made an outcast. She holds on to these family traditions, such as her dancing. And as we know, her house didn't really have the best people. Essentially, her quote before means it's easier said than done. It's like, sure, I could be polite. Sure, I can be nice. Sure, I could not want to seek vengeance. But you haven't been made an outcast. You don't know what it's like. I have to be this way to be strong. Eula's the kind of person who doesn't just roll over for anyone just because that would be the best course of action. She speaks her mind and she does what she does. She knows that her house fucked up. And she's very much like, I'm not gonna be like them, but I'm also not gonna change who I am either. I respect it. So to kind of just wrap this up to make it make sense for me anyway, you have this mystery element. It leads to this beast, which is a little underwhelming due to the voice. Maybe story-wise it's a big deal. We have Zhongli doing his thing, Eula in the picture, and then a bunch of customizable neat stuff that they kind of just throw in here, and new artifacts and dungeons, mini games, and so on. Alright, pretty cool.
Master Jean, I want to ask for some time off because I want to go somewhere.
Oh, speaking of which, I still have a promise to keep to Klee. Those fish won't blast themselves.
I got a terrible, terrible letter and need to go to a certain place. Dodoco is very important to me. I won't lose to Dodo King. Coming along to the rolling waves, it's so romantic.
It has something of the unknown about it and seems to have its fair share of dangers. And yet, the mystery is all part of its beauty.
I need to bring Jumpy Dumpies, Dodoco, and myself. Let's go!
Wicked girl of flame, you have finally arrived. I've waited far too long. You dare face me. Though such courage is admirable, but it is now meaningless because...
Vision bearer dies, the light in their vision will fade away.
Organizing the clash is my way of uncovering hidden talents, and hopefully this time, getting a vision to glow again.
Your opponent is new to the clash, but he has quickly become the dark horse of the tournament.
The vision is missing.
The sounds of nature turn into a clamor of noise during stormy weather. The winds are coming.
Clouds high, the birds come!
In the outset, supposing each of the 7 Archons had their criteria for granting visions to living beings, then does the current Electro-Archon now doubt these criteria, or even the act in and of itself? There will come a day when I too shall wish to understand the answers to eternity from her. The voyage to Inazuma is a treacherous one. You will be plagued by a perpetual tempest the entire trip. The part of your journey that lies after the storm may well prove to be the most arduous.
So this was the beach episode. It was lovely. We got to see Jean, we got to see Klee. They were having a good time. There's this boat event, this boat game, which is cool to kind of see a vehicle being used. Klee is as chaotic as ever. I'm a little surprised that Jean supports blast fishing. Still illegal in most places. Nice dress you got there. This whole thing seemed to be a lighthearted event, which was very cool. And then things got dark. This was cool, telling of some kind of story, some creepy story. And then you got this enemy, which is a marionette, and the strings just kind of go into the sky and fade away. I don't know if this is just a enemy tied to an event just for laughs, for fun, how common this enemy is at this point or after this point. I don't know if it's ever explained how or what is controlling them. There's this mask too that seems to enclose over them, so they probably have some kind of invulnerable state gameplay wise. We get a little bit of Kazuha and Beidou in here, and they are talking about Inazuma and the Archons. If one's heart is empty, all under heaven is empty. If one's heart is pure, all under heaven is pure. This is a very poetic and kind of vague way to say that good things happen to good people. Some people go about life with a negative outlook, and then they don't have the best luck. While others who stay positive and do good deeds, because they're being positive, they usually see the silver lining in most things. I think it's about making your own choices, which creates your own path. And that's his way of saying that.
In the outset, supposing each of the 7 Archons had their criteria for granting visions to living beings, then does the current Electro Archon now doubt these criteria, or even the act in and of itself? A day when I too shall wish to understand the answers to eternity from her.
I like this from Kazuha here. He's talking or even reflecting on what does Raiden think? What does Raiden believe in, essentially, when it comes to this criteria that supposedly exists for granting people these powers? Does she believe in it? Does she care to grant people these electro powers? And then Kazuha continues, knowing that one day he too will wish to understand the answers to eternity, which is something that is reoccurring in Raiden's teasers and demos. I'll definitely have to focus in on this more with future Raiden things. And let me just say that I know I've talked about it maybe a little bit here and there, but the landscapes, just the art in general in these trailers, amazing. I love seeing it all just kind of laid out, the different environments that they introduce you to. They're just so varied. You have festivals, you have tundra, you have beaches, cities, you got stuff. Well, that was the first chunk of version trailers that I'll be reacting to. And don't worry, I know that there are more, and I will be getting to them shortly. Due to my own personal schedule, I just kind of have to do it in this format because that's going to be the best way I'm going to be able to get it to you guys. More are coming, I promise. These have been excellent, and as per usual, a lot of fun to get into. I look forward to the day I get to look into them even more so. In the meantime, leave a like, share the video, or subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed already. I would really appreciate it, and the support means a lot. It really, really does. And also, if you are hearing me right now, that means you've made it to the end of the video. If you have, then in the comment section down below, within your message, include the word Firefly. And that way I will know that you are indeed a real one. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it always. Shine on, you crazy diamonds. Later.